Phillips cares about what's canon. Todd Phillips is, in Todd we trust.
Every time, no matter what the fandom is, I hear people talking about what is and isn't canon. I already know that conversation is not for me.
I just hear people saying they hate Todd Phillips. Hey everybody, it's another episode of We Just Watched. We just watched the first 2 episodes of Fallout on Amazon Prime.
Oh my God, so good. So good.
It's very good. So yeah, let's get out of the way. What did you think of this, Jay?
Well, I have a huge crush on Lucy.
Yeah,
that'd be the first thing. So let's get that out of the way.
Yeah.
So I thought it was fantastic.
I have a huge crush on Walt Goggins. Just
there
so
you go. Well,
but I mean,
we all do.
No one's, no one shouldn't. At this
I'm still
point.
breathing. Of course, I have a huge crush on Walt Goggins. I just assumed that was a given.
That was a given.
Or we need to say that?
No, it's
so
some things you have to say out loud.
So I will say the 2 key points to me to make, other than just, hey, I like it, is I think one of the main reasons I like it is because this is genre media adaptation done right, just in broad strokes. And what I mean by that is they've taken a bunch of the key elements from the world, a bunch of the visual elements from the world, a bunch of the narrative beats from the world, and not bothered to directly adapt any of the individual stories. As soon as you directly adapt an individual story, whether it's from a video game or a comic book or from a book to a movie, like any of these different kinds of things, there's always a portion of the fan base that are going to be disappointed. Even if they go into it with the best of intentions and wanting to be happy, they're going to be disappointed because some moment that was important to them was wrong.
Yeah. So I think it's especially dangerous in a video game because everyone's going to have had a unique experience.
Any interactive media, it's the worst. And it's when I go on my endless railing about why I hate people talking about canon when it comes to a lot of these things, like any interactive media where your involvement in it changes the direction of the story, who cares what canon is? Your canon is different from my canon, and that's fine, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing is the fact that they get all of the background correct, and then put something new into the foreground for you to watch against that background. That was number one. And I got to say the number 2 thing, and it's stepping outside of the show itself, is I was super excited about it. So I was watching a lot of interviews and previews and stuff in the build up to the show. And the 3 actors who play the 3 main characters in the show have got to be 3 of the most genuinely likable people I've ever seen in anything. Like, they all have these very different enthusiasms and these very different approaches, but like seeing them, not as their characters promoting the show, I'm like, I want this to be successful for them. Yeah. Like, even if I had turned it on and it hadn't been for me, I want these people to be happy and successful. I enjoy their enthusiasm.
Yeah, and I think that what's great about this in particular, I agree with everything you just said. I agree that they're doing an adaptation of the world, not the stories and properties, which I think, one, Amazon's actually the right studio for that. Of all the studios so far, they are the ones who seem concerned the least with trying to attract previous people who are already fans. They're making something that's accessible to them, but what they're trying to do is take a cool idea and then make their own brand of content with it. They do it with Invincible and The Boys, right? With like the right voice casting and the right like art design. To what you just said, I should actually point out that I actually talked my wife into watching this with me. She's never played a Fallout video game. She's never watched me play a Fallout video game. She's got 0 exposure to it, and she loved it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the, like, making the on-ramp as wide as possible while still being true to the source material, but not being handcuffed by it is what I got of these first 2 episodes. So we're going to spoil a little bit, not going to spoil too much, but basically the first 2 episodes are great.
Don't you care if you blend in episode 3, I will come across this table. I won't, because what we have effectively is our inciting incident in episode 1 and our basically our congregation of the 3 main protagonists in episode 2. And that's where sort of like we were able to, I think, stop and logically talk about this for the first time, because one, the best thing about this show so far is that they have 3 different POVs on this world for us to understand this world through. We don't get a ton of exposition explaining what the world was like and what happened, except for seeing it in 3 different timelines from 3 different people. So we have Walt Goggins playing, I've forgotten the ghoul's name. They just call him the ghoul. Once he's the ghoul, they just call him the ghoul, but he's Cooper.
And his point of view is pre-war. We get to see what America was like leading up to the war. We get to actually see the dropping of the bombs from his point of view in the Hollywood Hills. We get an idea, and it's fantastic. Yeah, don't put you if it's bigger. Well, he has this great line with his daughter, where is if they taught us in the Marines, if the cloud is bigger than your thumb, you can run, and if the cloud's smaller than your
thumb, you can run.
It's bigger than your thumb, it's already
Don't
over,
bother.
it's done. And then when the bombs drop, his little daughter holds her thumb and goes, "Daddy, is it your thumb or mine?" Because the cloud is right there.
Why do you laugh when you say that? You
right
freaking
there.
monster!
Because that's a Fallout-y
totally
moment. You know what I mean? Like that sense of tragedy and like humor in the face of tragedy is this like moment. And then we see his transformation, right? We see his transformation into something unnatural, basically, that's still alive in this post-apocalypse.
Yeah, he shows up later as the ghoul.
We see Lucy and her life in the vault and the point of view of like these people that have survived underground for 200 years.
Which again, tonally is so good. Like the fact that your first scene of Lucy is her talking directly into the camera on
just
that.
Just dead-assing right into the camera, but what life's
basically
like.
just telling you about her life as she prepares to move on to meet her husband.
And it's so excellently blast from the past. Like she's got this air of like naivety and innocence because she's basically applying to get a husband.
Yeah.
Because she wants to have a family and like
she wants to move out of the genetic pool she's trapped in.
That's right. She's trapped inside this pool of cousins basically, and she wants to have a family. And that would be a real problem for a vault. Like you need to make sure that you are curating who marries who and what that looks like going forward. And you learn more about the world through this. Now, if you're a Fallout fan, you realize that you're kind of always waiting for the penny to drop at the vault because most of the vaults were not like her vault.
Right.
Vault 32 is not a typical vault in so much as there doesn't appear to be anything being done to mess with them.
Vault 33 appears to be an actual meritocracy. And I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean,
that's right. Sorry, it's done in 33.
Even later on, when you get to the point where they're potentially going to have to look for a new overseer, like the sinister motives that her brother lays out for her is that they all want the position.
Just want to be in power.
And they're not crooked. Like it's just, it appears to be a pure meritocracy.
And that these things don't come up very often, so everyone's taking it real seriously. And we also get to see that they trade with their vaults. Like there's other vaults that they have to like genetically trade with that occasionally will communicate with them and talk to them, and that more people may have survived than just them. And then we have Maximus, who is our knight aspirant in the Brotherhood of the Steel. And we learn about the fact that he has come from tragedy. He was basically rescued by the Brotherhood of Steel and brought up in their society to try and become a knight and some type of like quasi-militaristic.
Do we do the air quotes around rescued or no? Just say rescued.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows? And we get a lot of exposition on him and his motivations when his only and best friend is promoted above him and is mysteriously injured. To the point where they can no longer walk and they will not be able to become a knight. And he gets the promotion instead to becoming not a knight, but becoming a squire, which means they go out in the field and they might potentially become knights. The knights wear these massive suits of power armor, which I think they handle really well. The power armor is both incredibly powerful, but also incredibly hard to use. So you see the knights that know how to use it as these like superhuman killing machines. Whereas later on, there is a moment where Maximus wears it for the first time and it does not go well.
It's interesting because if you've played Fallout 4, which has the actual animation of you getting into the armor, right?
Yeah, you step into
it. You kind of step up into it, and the implication is kind of like your hands are further out than your hands. It's like almost like you're on painter stilts.
Yep.
And even the competent knight that you see a reasonably detailed amount around, you can tell there's still a certain awkwardness to how he moves. He's not clumsy, but there's a certain awkwardness. It's not.
And in the video games, they actually say
it's not Space Marine power armor.
Well, but also they actually say in the video games, like when in Fallout 3, when you first encounter power armor, you can't put it on.
No,
you can't even wear it. You have to get trained in how to actually wear it. The only reason you can wear it in Fallout 4 is you're ex-military.
Yeah,
is that everybody, either Nora or your background is that you were a soldier and you already know how to wear power armor. So there's actually like kind of an in-universe reason.
Yep.
For all this to happen, and it's never said out loud, but it's just portrayed in the way that all this stuff is basically like interacted with. And so we get these really interesting 3 POVs. We get their backstories in episode 1, and we get our inciting incident for all 3 of them, where it's the promotion to squire for Maximus. It's basically being dug out of the ground for Cooper, which is fantastic, and just unleashed onto the world because you get the people talking about him, digging him up. You get his whole backstory that he's just this legendary badass, but he's done something wrong and he's been kept in the ground.
And again, though, it's so Fallout-y, right? Because Maximus is at a Brotherhood of Steel, some sort of forward base.
Yep.
So it's reasonably high tech. It's very clean. It's very organized. Lucy starts in a vault, so you're in a vault. Then when she comes out, you're into like the classic wasteland that you see when you walk out of the vault for the first time in any Fallout game. And with Cooper, you're effectively in one of those pseudo horror movie settings that you get, like the Dunwich House or something, right? Like
I don't even know if he's in California still. It feels like he's in like Louisiana or like East Texas or West Texas or something like that, where like there's trees and it's a bayou and it's swampy.
Well, I assume
it feels like he's somewhere else.
I assumed he was in Kentucky because it's Walt Goggins and he gets dug out by Limehouse from Justified.
That's true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that makes sense. He would be in Kentucky. He's
back in the holla.
So that's our episode 1. Basically, is the 3 of these giving us her backstory. Lucy's inciting incident, though, is her wedding, where she's supposed to be married to someone from Vault 32, turns out to be a trap. And that trap is that the vault is actually fallen. They don't know the vault's fallen, and it's being used as a false flag to infiltrate their vault, and that the people that infiltrate that she actually marries all end up being raiders.
Yeah.
They are working for someone mysterious, and that mysterious person has orchestrated all of this to try and get her dad. And her dad is kidnapped at the end of it all. They blow the doors. And while the remainder of the vault are left alive, basically, kind of cynically, her world is basically turned upside down by her missing Kyle MacLachlan, who is her dad, which is fucking amazing. Who obviously...
Some people's Liam Neeson's is a Kyle MacLachlan.
Some people's Liam Neeson's is a Kyle MacLachlan.
Can't even say it's an upgrade or a downgrade.
Yeah,
it's just
lateral
great.
move.
Everything's good.
He does take in some people, though, at some point, because there's a moment where, like, he's kind of this kindly father figure.
Yep.
And then the Raiders start fighting, and then Kyle MacLachlan starts kicking ass. He gets all Paul Muad'Dib.
And again, as an aside to that, we talked about this before, but one of the things that I love about Lucy as a protagonist, and most of the characters in this in general, right, is that when it's time for them to act, they're not incompetent. Like she is portrayed as being very naive, very innocent to the ways of the world, but she's not incompetent. She's not a damsel in distress, but she's also not a Mary Sue, right? Like she is a skilled, competent person that is frequently on her back foot.
And incredibly out of her depth in a lot of cases, and has no context for anything that's happening.
Correct.
Right? Because all of her dealings have been rational and informed up to this point in her life, and she's basically being dropped into a completely irrational situation. Like, she does not understand how ghoul physiology works. Like, at one point, she shoots Walt Goggins with the... in episode 2, we'll get to it, with like the trank. It's the famous trailer bit where she's like, that is an itty bitty drop in an ocean of drugs.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't even slow him down. The trank dart, he just keeps on going. And so we get to episode 2. And episode 2 is, as these 3 people are forced, Lucy's left the vault. Goggins is on his way back to wherever he's from, basically trying to figure out what this big job is, what this big score is he was being dug up for. We've got now the squiring basically of Maximus as he goes out to work for a knight named Titus. And
who's a dick.
Who's a huge dick. All the knights seem to be huge dicks.
Yeah, but I mean, when he takes off his mask and you see who the actor is, it's like, oh yeah, he's a huge dick.
Yeah, that guy's a huge dick. Okay, yeah. What's the actor been in before? I didn't recognize him.
That's Michael Rappaport.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
Basically, if you want a loudmouth northeastern.
Oh, of course
America
it is.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus! It's the dude from yeah.
Pick a thing with a loud mouth.
Yeah.
Redheaded.
No, man, he's True Romance, Deep Blue Sea. I forgot about Michael Rappaport.
He's Titus.
He's amazing.
When the first time his helmet comes off, I was like, oh, I can't wait for him to die.
Yeah. And die he does. And Titus basically Maximus basically decides he's going to impersonate Titus.
Yeah,
he's going to take this as an opportunity to become a knight.
It's a Knight's Tale.
And he says this in the first episode. Why did you become a knight in the Brotherhood of Steel? To hurt the people that hurt me. He's not doing it for good reasons. He's not doing it to save the wasteland.
No, and even
he's doing it for power.
The scene where he lets Titus die, like Titus is like, you can't just take my power armor and like go back. They'll never accept you. He's like, they will if I accomplish the mission. Like, he's this super soft-spoken, kind of meek, getting put down by everybody guy, but he clearly... He is the one that feels like somebody playing a video game.
He's got real Kylo Ren vibes.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, he has real Kylo Ren. Like, if you took Kylo Ren and like you gave him, you got to see the beginning of his story, this is what that feels like to me. Like, he definitely has traumatic motivations that are completely in control most of the time, that we don't really understand, that I feel like are going to get revealed over the course of the show, the same way Lucy's have been, the same way that Walt Goggins have been.
Him and the ghouls seem very morally juxtaposed, which is one of them acts evil but doesn't seem evil.
Right.
One of them doesn't act evil but seems evil.
That's right. One of them acts good but is probably going to be evil, and the other one is good but has massive 219 years of trauma. Yeah. I can't remember how much backstory we get for the Ghoul in episode 2 because I feel like it was quite a bit.
No, not really. So
he's fairly enigmatic, I think, leading up to the showdown.
Yeah, because episode 2 is basically, again, it's the showdown in town.
Yeah. And it's our encounter with the Doctor. And, that's it. The Doctor.
So that is the thing that brings their 3 stories together. So in the first episode, Titus is looking for someone, but Maximus is just there to squire Titus. So his motivation is that he's Titus' squire. The Ghoul has a job. He's supposed to track somebody down and bring them to somebody else, but we don't get a lot of information on that.
That's right.
And Lucy is looking for her dad, and then through that, she comes across the Doctor and then encounters him in this town. And then again, Maximus finds out that's who he's looking for. The Ghoul finds out that's who he's looking for. So this is the thing that brings the 3 of them together.
And they all come together. The Doctor is basically at this kind of odds and ends shop where she goes asking about her father. And the other 2 arrive basically at the same time and begin fighting over the
in the most himself. I don't know if it's hilariously violent or violently hilarious fight ever.
So the Ghoul shows up in town and just starts killing literally everyone. He shoots the Doctor's leg off. Anyone who tries to stop him is immediately just gunned down. He has a gun that I don't know how to describe it. It shoots it's the Samaritan from Hellboy.
It looks like a revolver that fires solid slug shotgun shells. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's like a Lamat gun, but with 4 chambered rounds and a revolving cylinder. It's like a 4-round cylinder.
Now, to be fair, he actually does start off by basically telling them he's just there to get the Doctor and he's not there to hurt anybody else. Right. And then they all decide he's a ghoul and he's not a good person.
Yeah.
He's, you know what? It's Bucky Barnes in Civil War. Bucky just wanted his plums. The Ghoul just wanted to eat his cherry tomatoes. He even offers one to one of the guys he shoots through the neck.
He does. He shoots through the neck, yeah. So Cooper clearly has no problem killing people when they get in his way or they stop his agenda. He feels tired. You know what I mean? He feels like he just doesn't have time for this.
Yeah.
And we don't really know why, but it does feel like he cannot be basically asked to argue with people. He's just going to kill them.
He's got work to do. Yeah. That's it. He's not turned off or frightened by any of the violence he commits.
He's dispassionate.
But he's not into it.
No, he's super dispassionate the entire time. Yeah. Until Maximus shows up pretending to be Titus, in which case he actually gets kind of excited for a second and he fights this guy. He gets his ass whipped for a minute and then kind of gets the high ground on him. He gets thrown, the Doctor gets thrown through a building and Maximus basically asks Lucy to get him out of there. They get him into the sort of the knick-knack shop, and the 2 owners of the knick-knack shop, one of whom was eating her beans, which I thought was a great scene.
Why not?
There's all this stuff happening inside all this house. She's just sitting there eating her beans.
People die at the fair all the time.
People die at the fair. These two old ladies who live together running this shop are definitely not bothered by this violence that much. But it is revealed that the one who owns the store knows a little bit about what's going on.
She feels a bit like a railroad character. From
That something's happening that we're not sure about.
She's running some kind of
underground thing, and the Doctor was there to figure out why. We've also gotten some background on the Doctor. He's what his background is. She meets him in the middle of the night, basically around her campfire. And he's this kind of enigmatic, he's basically playing his character from Lost again. He's this enigmatic figure that shows up outside your fire and tells you, you're not supposed to be here. You need to get the fuck out of here.
Sorry, we skipped over the most important part of the Doctor.
Right.
Which is, the most important part of the Doctor is, if you're a Fallout fan, he's the one who's going to give you and introduce the dog.
Yeah, he's going to give you a dog, whose name is
CX404.
CX404. And he raises CX404 from being a puppy. And apparently his
Semi-secretly.
Semi-secretly, his work was about raising a dog. There was a lot of attempts to make this dog where he would get rid of these dogs, but he eventually decides to keep one and raise it kind of in private. And at one point, he injects himself with something weird in his neck. Some kind of little, teeny little rice-sized microchip or something like that, glowing blue.
Upper part of his neck, right?
Upper part of his neck.
Because that's going to be important, I think.
Right around here, right behind the ear. And is eventually forced to flee because the dog kills another scientist. Someone discovers the dog, discovers what he's been working on.
Somebody threatens him after discovering the dog, at which point the dog that has been perfectly benign the whole time
just kills this guy.
Just kills the guy.
Just immediately kills this guy.
Yeah.
And we're not super sure why, but it forces him to flee wherever he's living. past an amazing scene with a gun turret from Fallout, which is a perfect gun turret.
Yep.
Because it doesn't hit a goddamn thing.
Except the other gun turret.
Except the other gun turret blows out, which is fantastic. And that seems to be his inciting incident. And you kind of get the sense that he's going to be like a third character or fourth character, except not for very long. Yeah. He will be in spirit.
He felt like he was important. Oh, no, he's not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's not fair. Part of him is important.
So that's what's led him to this town, is he's basically like trying to get from point A to point B away from whoever it was with before. And the scene where he's now had his legs shot off and they're all fighting, and Maximus and Cooper are both like going at it outside. He has to get his leg reattached, and they just happen to have like a war amputee's insta leg thing, which is very funny.
It's very Fallout.
It's just this like weird grinder that like attaches to your stump and grinds down onto it, and then a foot gets cranked onto it.
Picture a bucket with a grinder on one end and just a screw hole on the other.
This thing does not shy away from graphic displays of violence in any way, shape, or form, and I'm so here for it, because I jumped out of my, like, I literally stood up and was like, yes, like when this happened, because I did not know how they were going to get this guy
I had the
out of
same
here.
reaction to them putting the leg on that I did to them driving the boat through the whale in The Boys. Like, it was the same kind of, I was just like, oh my God, that's amazing. Oh, I'm a bad person.
Oh, yeah, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? He's just screaming the whole time. And eventually him and Lucy limp out the back. And Cooper gets the upper hand on Maximus, cuts a like some kind of like gizmo in his neck that basically
one of the hydraulic lines
damages his power armor. That's right. And he engages his rockets, and he flies away and like crashes. And Cooper realizes that the people he's looking for are gone, that he's basically failed this mission. And so episode 2 kind of ends with everybody back on the road. Maximus is, stuck on the ground, basically trying to fix his power armor. Cooper is wandering around trying to find the trail. What he finds instead is the dog, which unfortunately he knifed. He immediately knifed the dog.
He had knifed the dog during the fight. He stimpacks the dog.
He did, but that's what I mean. He fixes the dog and then realizes the dog is going to find its owner. And then Lucy wandering into the desert with the dog. Now, the dog says something really telling in this point. He says, you have to go on without me. And she says, I'm not going to go on without you. We'll be okay. And he says, well, I'm not going to last much longer. And she says, no, we'll get you help. You last longer. He's like, no, because I just took a cyanide pill.
Well, the other thing he says that's super important is he calls her Lucy McLean.
That's right. He knows who she is. That's right. But he mentions this was the most successful thing we ever made at Vault Tech. Was banana flavored cyanide pills.
I'm surprised it wasn't more popular.
And he tells her she has to cut off she has to get him where he's going, but it'll be way easier if she cuts off his head to take him. And then and then she hands him the Ripper.
Yep.
It's a Ripper, but it's like a fold out Ripper. I thought it was so cool, a little chainsaw. And she does. And she chops off this dude's head, kind of like it's funny because when she comes out of that is one of these like transitional moments where you see her naivety slowly being chipped away at, where she has to do these things that are like.
And again, I love that because it's very organic. Like it
feels earned.
Yeah,
it feels earned.
Yeah,
like when she comes out and she's like, I think no one would like. She's basically talking to Cooper and she's like, I don't want to use violence, but I think anyone here would agree that you're probably the aggressor and this and that. And she shoots him with a dart gun, and she realizes like, oh, I completely mishandled the situation. Like I was trying to de-escalate this, and this was never going to get de-escalated. Yeah. That's one of those moments. But then this next one, where she has to cut off this doctor's head, is another one.
But I love it, and we talked about this again beforehand. I can't stress enough that from what I've seen so far, this is how you do a hero's journey correctly.
Yeah.
Right? Like in steps, everything's earned. It's reasonable. You don't suddenly Deus.
Like a Deus Ex Machina, like
Deus Ex Machina, like just the new thing.
Yeah. And all of it's episodic television that feels like it's linked. Yeah. Like it's not too. There's not a lot. Like there's not so much mystery box. It's more like an unveiling of the backstory of this world and stuff like that. And I think to try and bring people into the Fallout universe in like an organic way, that's a big challenge.
And like I said, my wife, who has zero exposure to it, she's fully bought into it. She can't wait to see the rest of it.
That's fantastic. So obviously the people watching this, some of you have watched the entire series. Don't spoil it in the comments if you don't have to. But let's do some theorizing. I was going to
say, this is now the video that if you upload it quickly, I can't look at the comments section.
I know we can't look at the comments. We're not going to look at the comment section because I want to do some theorizing just to see if later on we know if we're right or not. So obviously the thing, like the drops from the doctor that he was a Vault Tech scientist, I think he is a vault scientist, and I think he was cryogenically frozen. Because I don't think they're making any new products. I think this guy's been unfrozen to work for somebody, and he's either trying to get away from them to somebody else. Like, is he trying to get away from the vault tech scientist to another vault? He's trying to get to the Enclave. He's trying to get to the NCR. Like, we don't know enough about the world right now. And also, we can't, because effectively, if it's 219 years in the future, this is 19 years post Fallout 3-4, right? So we're in a future where we don't know, and also we don't know if New Vegas is canon or not. So we don't know if the NCR falls at Hoover Dam, or what happens in Nevada basically affects California. But 2277 is the sort of usual timeline for any of the Fallout stories. It's 200 years after the bombs in 2077. So like, we're in a weird place where we're in 2096 or 2296, which is a lot further ahead than most Fallout games happen. So that's kind of smart in that we can't really guess no one watching who knows anything about the game, everything can be different. Everything can be like completely changed. We did see some things that are like pretty canon though, for like the Brothers of Steel, like the airship.
You see a vertibird. You see lots of vertibirds.
Lots of vertibirds, but you see an actual airship too.
See, it's not the Pridwin, but you see another airship exactly like the Pridwin. Yep. Titus gets killed by a Yaguai. Mm-hmm. So you see that. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen it in the first 2 episodes yet, but we've all seen scenes online with the Mr. Handy, so we know that's coming.
See rad roaches. There's some rad roaches. The dog eats a rad roach in a very funny way, which I thought was great. Yeah. We like lots of things that we've established as being sort of and we've seen ghouls.
So I gotta be honest, the thing I'm actually really wondering about, and maybe we get it this season, maybe we don't, maybe we get it next season, maybe we don't get it at all, but is when she, like I was telling my wife, when she cuts his head off, like obviously she could just be carrying the actual chip and not in fact, she's physically carrying his head, but that might not be what's important. What might be what's important is just the chip.
But has to be.
Well, but what I'm really wondering is, we've also seen robot brains in the Fallout video games.
Yep, Robrains.
And Who's the King's Dog, where he's got the other brain inserted.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm almost wondering if his brain ends up in someone or something else.
Yeah, I mean, that's entirely possible. The RoboBrain especially is entirely possible with the technology they have. I think that the interesting thing is going to be, what does the landscape look like? Because the Brothers of Steel is obviously entrenched in California. They're from California. They're a huge part of the story of Fallout 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And they exist in like a powerful way. They're obviously a huge player in the area. Yeah. If Walt Goggins' character is from LA is where Necropolis is. And Necropolis in Fallout 1 and 2 is the city of ghouls, basically.
So the thing I'm actually really curious about is it's funny, Walt Goggins, great actor, he's playing a great character. There's a ton of mystery around him, and yet he's the one I'm the least interested in the mysteries around him, because the character I'm the most interested in the mysteries around him is Maximus.
Yeah.
Because you start off, you're kind of being emotionally manipulated, because the first scene with Maximus is him just getting stomped in by a bunch of the other Brotherhood recruits, who are all, they're portrayed as bullies, and then when he talks to his friend, it's very clear they are in fact bullies. Yeah. But why are they all stomping him in? And then why is it when he gets brought in front of the elder is down talking him and clearly making him believe that he might be about to be executed, right? Like, there's something that's happened before the first scene we've seen that underlies the fact that not everything is quite what it seems with this guy.
Maximus has lots of story that we don't know about, clearly. Yeah. Like, because we also don't know what the inciting incident that led him to the Brotherhood is. We just see a scene where it's like young him seeing a knight for the first time.
Yeah, because all the framing is he's this very sympathetic, empathetic character. And then
his actions are pretty demonic at some points.
Because the implication is that he might be the one who injured his friend, so he could get her spot.
And it's fucking brutal. Razor blade, like her leg gets sliced. Up the side by a razor blade in her boot, and it's fucking brutal.
And then the scene with Titus, even and again, like, they're still framing this stuff very carefully, because Titus is an ass. Yep. And he's played by an actor who's known for playing asses. But if you ignore that for a second, the fact that he just lets him die is still pretty bad.
It's pretty cold. He wants that armor, man. He wants that night spot. So, like, we've seen 2 times now that Maximus has been willing to let people be injured or die to get whatever it is he wants.
And again, like I said, there's something underlying. Why does everybody hate him in the first place?
And he nakedly says, I want to hurt the people that hurt me. Yeah. Like, that's my motivating factor. It's not altruistic. I want to hurt people that hurt me. And, like, maybe that's what the Brotherhood wants now, because that's what he says that has the.
When he
cleric
says
let
that,
him
that's
go.
how he gets the gig.
Yeah.
That's the thing that gets him through the job interview.
Was the honesty part. So I don't know. I am excited though, because we're gonna have to play this out at some point, because one, there's a model pack for this. Two, July.
That's so bad.
I know, and July is the they're selling at Salute, so we should be able to get it soon. And then two, the Nuka World Fallout Tactics comes out in July, so we got that game on the way. So more Fallout will be coming soon for us.
Yeah,
to,
and they've
to
got those
play out.
get you buy lists, so you could. I don't know if I know there's a Brotherhood one. I wonder if there's a Ghoul one.
We should check it out. Give it a try. Why not? We'll go online and scrape for stuff, because I am in a Fallout mode right now, and I can't wait to do episodes. Well, next week we'll do episodes 3 and 4.
Sure.
Sit down and watch through. You and Christine can catch up. And
I'll tell her that's why we have to watch.
yeah, I'm doing this for work, man. We'll do episodes 3 and 4. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this. We'll keep following along. Falling along,
Falling out,
or watch along with Fallout and doing these little short form episodes. We just watched Fallout.
Don't ruin more of it for me in the comments.